Hey everybody, welcome to Hat Hole Home Video. I noticed today kind of a big old Shatner Paramount dust-up over Star Trek Day. And I just wanted to give my thoughts as a lifelong Star Trek fan. I know, here's the thing. It's always hard because you see this stuff and, you know, it's always, you know, sort of studio versus fan base. And it's so much of everything is studio versus fan base. And what I see a lot of times now, and it's with Marvel, it's with everybody, it's that the studios aren't listening to the will of the people. And I think back to a time when a little show called DS9 came out. And I remember a lot of fans really disliking DS9. They really didn't like it. And I was kind of indifferent to it. I was a giant TNG fan at the time, and it was kind of a little too different and almost like a little, it was almost as a nerd and as someone who like didn't want to be ostracized for being a nerd, you know, you had to kind of keep some, you know, you couldn't really fly your freak flag like as bold and brightly as you can now. So you had to kind of be like chill about like the nerdy things you were into back then. And I loved TNG and maybe like 2 Star Trek shows. It was just like too much nerd for me or something at the time. I don't know. But I sort of stayed away until the end, and I really got into the show like in the last season and then have gone back and watched it in earnest. But Ernest Goes to Star Trek. That'd be a good movie. Maybe we can create a AI version of Jim Varney and insert him into episodes of Star Trek. That would finally be, we could use AI for something worthwhile. No, but I just think back to the will of the people. And, I mean, this is sort of maybe a terrible thing to say, that the will of the people sometimes isn't great either, and obviously studio think is not great. And I don't know how you reconcile those two things, because it always seems like I look back and I think, well, if fans had gotten their way here, we would have missed out on this great thing. We would have missed out on DS9. We would have missed out on the idea. You know, what DS9 did best was showed us the flip side of the next-gen coin. You know, the Enterprise D was the Federation flagship, and it was really the ideal, like that Roddenberry utopian society vision of the future that we all had. But we know that isn't how the galaxy works for everybody. Just because you have it good doesn't mean everybody has it good. And DS9 was like, what's the line? Cisco says it. It's like it's easy to be a saint in heaven, something like that. And it was such a neat exploration of the fringes of the Federation, where the morals and the ethics become a lot more questionable. And I think the two shows together are like a perfect Star Trek 1-2 punch. But I think if the fans at that time had gotten their way, we wouldn't have gotten that flip side that we saw. And then Voyager sort of became trying to be the best of both worlds. It was sort of trying to be TNG light, but with those darker elements of DS9 too. And I just look back and I mean, I guess ultimately this is not what this Shatner dust-up is about, but it's got me thinking about it. The Shatner dust-up was, so for Star Trek Day, they were putting out, promotional images, Happy Star Trek Day, and it was sort of photo collages of all these iconic Star Trek characters, and conspicuously absent was Captain Kirk, William Shatner. And obviously, some fans, got into a very upset about that, being, the first and arguably most iconic Star Trek captain. There was representation of the original series in all these photo collages. Spock was in there. Uhura was in there. And obviously, obviously they're trying to cover like the broad spectrum of all the different shows, and obviously have, some sort of like broad representation in there. But obviously it throws, obviously there's fans that are going to say, hey, WTF, where's, the iconic captain? And I don't know if it's, now I'm stuck with like my brain where I see it from different perspectives, and I do hear the arguments for both sides. One, it's just simple, cut and dry. One of the most iconic characters, why is that character not represented in this lineup? But then part of me goes, well, you're putting in two characters from this show already. Quite a few of the shows didn't get two characters. You're talking about, obviously, like, racial and gender representation, but then there's part of me that goes, well, where's Sulu? Like, there's really very little to no Asian representation in this lineup. So if you're going to talk about representation and you're excluding someone for that, why is there not a Sulu? We know why there's not an Ensign Kim. No offense, Garrett. You're not making this lineup. I guess same with Soji, with Keiko, with Ogawa. So then that throws the representation debate or reasoning, the rationale, kind of into a little bit of chaos, I would say. It's a little unfair to exclude such an iconic character in the name of representation, but then your representation is also coming up so short. I also kind of thought TNG as a series was sort of really unfairly underrepresented in the lineup. I know in some of the promotional stuff, Geordi was in there, but when I look at this, it's like it's obviously Star Trek Picard era Picard. It's not TNG era Picard. And I'm sorry, third season was good, but Star Trek Picard does not equal Star Trek TNG. It is just a not even in the same quadrant of the galaxy as Star Trek TNG is. So it does surprise me that, again, in this lineup of iconic characters, you don't have two TNG people. You could have Picard, but I'm really shocked you don't have Geordi or Worf in this main lineup image. Or Data. Also very surprising. So it's whoever made the choice, and obviously everything boils down to, like, I'm sure this was not a carefully thought out thing that went through levels of creative higher ups. I'm sure it was like an intern got thrown this job, like, hey, it's Star Trek Day, make a couple things we can put on our Twitter. Like, it's obviously, I was seeing tweets of like people saying like, it's clear that the people in charge of Star Trek hate Star Trek. And maybe that's true, but this particular situation is, I don't think, representative of somebody actively, maliciously going like, I am plotting Star Trek's downfall from the inside, and I will exclude Kirk. And that will show them, that will show old Star Trek fans, they need to go get in their graves and die because they're old. I don't think it's like that. I think it's just somebody was like, oh, I have to put a bunch of characters in this. They looked for some kind of, variety. I won't even say representation. I'll say they were looking for a variety of characters. And again, it was probably an intern that doesn't know a whole lot about the storied history of this franchise and just picked a bunch of well-rounded characters. Again, I disagree with excluding Kirk, but I also disagree with, you had two Voyager characters. I think you could have done two DS9 characters. I don't know. There was a lot of different ways. I think the one thing all of us Star Trek fans are really good at is armchair admiraling everything. We really, each of us, and I mean, that's why I'm here. I'm here to tell you because I think I'm right. So I'm here to tell you my thoughts because I think I'm right. But Star Trek fans, I think more than a lot of fan bases, and I'm saying that as, someone who's like 3 to 4 decades deep into this fandom, we're all, and we've always been really good at each of us knowing absolutely what was the best, most rightest decision that could have possibly been made. And we're always really vocal about it. So that's kind of it's sort of awful and toxic, but it's also kind of fun, right? Like, debating these things is always kind of fun. Yeah, I guess that's really all I have to say about this whole dust up. I think it's kind of wild seeing Shatner, and I didn't dig into his past, but clearly he's got major beef with the studio, and studio seems to have major beef back at him. So it is kind of interesting to see all these things playing out in real time over social media. That's one thing we never got back in the day. I think, man, we would have seen, because most of the original cast really did not like each other. It would have been interesting if they had social media or something similar, where we could have gotten the real time thoughts of these people back then. I think we would have been shocked at how much drama there was, and now seeing it, we think like, oh, it's it's crazy how different it is now, but really it was just all behind the scenes before, and we didn't get to see it. So now we get to see it. So grab your popcorn, folks. Yeah, that's all I have to say. I could keep rambling, but I'm going to cut it off because that's what I do. If I don't stop it, it don't stop. So thank you, everybody, for watching. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Did they light up? If you're watching this on a desktop, isn't that what they do now? They light up. Hit that like button. Now watch it. So don't look at the button. Hit that like button. Did it light up? It's supposed to. Anyway, thanks everybody for watching. I will see you next time. Bye-bye.